Hello? Hello?
Um,
Yes.
Sound बहुत low है.
Oh, okay. Hello?
Ma'am, sound not clear.
Not clear. Now?
Did you remember what we discussed in the last class? Mohandasan?
about HTTP.
Yes, about HTTP. So, what is HTTP? So, can you tell me the features of HTTP? Okay. So, first of all, HTTP is connectionless, and second, HTTP is stateless. Okay. HTTP is connectionless. This means that when a browser initiates a HTTP request, okay, and after that, after a request is made, the client disconnect from the server and wait for a response. Okay, the server then processes the request. The server then processes the request and re-establish the connection with the client and send a response back. That is why HTTP is connectionless. Okay. Next, HTTP is stateless. Stateless because the server and the client are aware of each other only during a current request. Okay, they know each other a only during that time. After both of them forget about each other. Okay, due to this nature of the protocol, neither the client nor the browser can retain information between different requests across the web pages. Okay, that's why it is connectionless. So, HTTP, I think it is clear. So today we see about some working of web browser. Means how does a web browser work? Okay, first, in brief, I can say that suppose this is a client. Okay, this is a client computer and this is a server computer. Okay, this is web browser and this is web server. Okay, first of all, what happened? Web browser sent request for a file. Web browser sent a request for a file to the web server. Okay, after that, the web server send the file to the what? Web browser. First, web browser sent a request to the web server for something, and after that, the web server processes that query and send a response back to the web browser. Okay, and after that, the web browser interprets the file and display its contents on the screen. So this is a small concept. Okay, between the browser and a web server. So now we will discuss it elaborately. Means the working, how they work. Actually, this is a small step we can say. First, the web browser send a request to the web server. Okay, and after that, the web server processes that and give a response to the web browser, and after that the web browser interpret the files and display it on the screen. This is a simple, but behind that there is a, means we can say, huge steps. So we will now see it one by one. Okay, first one is that the user on the client computer, this is a client computer. Web client means it is a client computer. A client is sitting in this computer. Okay, and in this computer browser is there, something like your Mozilla or your Google Chrome. These are some browser, these are some applications. These applications are installed in the client side. Okay, so the user on the client computer means the user on the client side types the full name. Full name means what? Including the domain name in the URL. When you open the means Chrome, you can see a bar in the URL. There the user type its full name, including the domain name. Okay, now I think you all know about what is domain name. What is domain name?
Yes, ma'am.
You,
Domain name is that, ma'am, www.google.com, all those domain name.
okay, you know the relationship between domain and IP address. Sorry, DNS and IP address. Okay, I will just give you. So yes, domain name. A user type its domain name in that URL. Okay, type this domain name in the URL of that web server in which a user is interested. Suppose I am interested in google.com, so I type there in google.com. Okay, then as soon as I type there, okay, as soon I press the enter, the browser first check its cache. Okay, the browser means where I am typing this. Suppose I am typing in Google Chrome or Mozilla. So there, that application check its cache first, whether that web server or whether that domain name is exist in its cache or not. Okay, if it is not found in the cache, what does the browser do? The browser requests the DNS, means domain name server. Okay, the browser then requests the DNS, domain name system. Okay, for the IP address. Clear? This clear? First,
Yes, ma'am.
see the first the user on the client computer types the full name including the domain name, okay, of that server in which a user is interested in. As soon as we press enter, the browser first check in its cache whether that domain name is present or not. If it is not present in the cache, browser request DNS, means domain name system, for the IP address corresponding to that URL. Okay,
Excuse me, ma'am.
yes,
What is cache?
you don't know what is cache? Right? So if it is not found in their browser, then request DNS, domain name system, for the IP address corresponding to that URL. So what is our URL? Our URL is the google.com. So the browser then requests the DNS for the IP address of google.com. Okay, you know about DNS? What is DNS? DNS something is like that.
Domain name service.
Domain name server.
Yes, domain name system. So our server, can say. So what is there? The information of host like computers on the internet is saved in the domain name server. Okay, means suppose google.com I have typed here, the correspond the IP address of google.com is mapped there, and they send the IP address of google.com to our browser, right? Means DNS reply with the IP address for google.com. Up to here it is clear.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, then the browser make a TCP connection with the computer. So you all know about OSI layers. There are 7 layers, or there are different layers, and the working of each layer are different. All the layers work in their way, and the browser then make a TCP connection with the computer. Okay, TCP connection means a connection must be there to transfer packet from one place to another, right? So TCP work on transport layer. Don't confuse TCP and HTTP. TCP works on transport layer and HTTP works on application layer. Okay, TCP makes connection with the server. Okay, and HTTP transfer messages from client to server, or vice versa, server to client. Okay, when the connection is established, when the connection is established, the TCP make connection in three-way handshaking. We will get it later on how the connection is made by a TCP. Okay, did you get about TCP? मिला है क्या तुम लोगों को TCP के बारे में?
all the
Hmm?
protocols we got.
Uh-huh.
TCP layers protocols we got.
Yes, TCP layers protocol you got. Okay, then good. So after that the browser make a TCP connection with the computer. Okay, means a connection is made. Then the client request for web pages to the web server using the HTTP request. Okay, when the connection is made between the client and the server, the client request for web pages to the server using HTTP request. Means HTTP request is sent to the server. Okay, next, how the request is sent. Next, the question is request is made. So how the request, then the HTTP request is then handed over to the HTTP software running on the client machine. This is a client machine, this is a server machine. Okay, here what happened, the HTTP, here HTTP software is there. Okay, then the request is handed to the HTTP software running on the client machine. Now what does this software do? This HTTP software which is there on the client machine now hands over this HTTP request to the TCP IP software that is running on this client machine, because the data is transferred by the TCP. TCP is what TCP work on transport layer. Okay, means transmission control protocol. Okay, so what after that, the HTTP software which is there on the client machine, it hands over that HTTP request to the TCP IP software that is running on this client machine. Okay, then this TCP/IP software, which is running in the client machine, this software break the request, means your request, HTTP request, into some packets, okay, and send them over TCP to the web server. It breaks the request and send this to the web server through the TCP, transmission control protocol. Clear? Up to here it is clear. Clear or not? Okay. Then the TCP IP software, which is running on the server side, which is running on this server side, it reassemble the HTTP request. Okay. Here in the client side, the HTTP request is break into some packets. Okay, and send it to the web server. In the web server, the TCP/IP software reassemble the HTTP request. Okay, and give it to the HTTP software that is running on this server side in this server machine. Clear? And after that, the HTTP software that is running on the server side interpret the HTTP request. Okay, like the browser has asked what kind of file. Suppose we are asking here index file. Example, suppose we are asking for some index file. Okay, so therefore it requests its OS which is running on the server for that file. Like, please find this file. Please find this index file. Okay, so the OS on the server locates the file and give it to the HTTP software. Give it to the HTTP software that is running in this server side. Clear? Then the HTTP software on the server now hands over this HTTP response to the TCP/IP software which is running on the server side, because the data should be transferred through TCP. Okay, that's why the response should be handed over to the TCP/IP software. Okay, then after that, the TCP/IP software which is running on the server side again break that HTTP response into some packets and send it over TCP to the client. Okay, once all the packets have been transferred to the client, the TCP/IP software on the web server.
Ma'am, after breaking the packets, what?
Hmm?
Ma'am, after the HTTP hand over the request to the TCP/IP software, after that, what it is?
Okay, see, the HTTP software, Juntu HTTP software on the server side now hands over the response to the TCP/IP software which is running on the server side. Okay, now this TCP/IP software which is running on the server side break that HTTP response into some packets and send it to the TCP, to the client. Okay, now once all the packets have been transmitted to the client, the TCP/IP software on the web server informs the HTTP software on the web server. After that, the TCP/IP software on the client computer checks the packet that it had received the correct packets or not, and after that it reassembles them to form the original web page. Okay, then it inform the HTTP software on the server side that the web pages was received correctly. Okay, after realizing this, the HTTP software on the web server terminates the TCP connection between the web server and the client. That's why the HTTP is a stateless protocol. Clear? And after that, the TCP IP software on the client now hands over the web page to the web browser for interpretation, means for our use. See, in the client side, there is an HTTP software and there is a TCP IP software. And in the server side also, there is an HTTP software and TCP IP software. Okay, to transmit a packet from client to server, the packet should be transferred through TCP. So the packet should be handed over to the TCP. This thing you remember. It is clear? It's a little confusing, but if you go through once, you will get it. It is clear or not?
Ma'am, অলপ বুজি পাইছো।
অলপ অলপ বুজি পাইছা? অলপ অলপ কিয় বুজি পাইছা?
Ma'am, last part clear হোৱা নাই।
Last part. তো last কোনটো
Ma'am,
part?
client means package to client of handover বুজি পোৱা নাই।
পেকেজটো তোমাৰ TCP IP যোনটো ছফ্টৱেৰ আছে, যোনটো ক্লায়েণ্ট ছাইডত, সি ফাৰ্ষ্ট চেক কৰে যেতিয়া তাৰ তাতে পেকেটছবোৰ আহি পাব, সি চেক কৰে যে ৱেডাৰ কাৰেক্টলি পেকেটছ আহি পাইছে নে নাই। ডেটছ ৱাই উই আৰ ইউজিং TCP. অ'কে, তো যদি ওৱান্স আহি পাইছে, চিয়'ৰ হৈছে আহি পাইছে, দেন ৰিএছেম্বল, কাৰণ পেকেটছবোৰতো তোমাৰ মেছেজটোতো ইন পেকেটছ ফৰ্মত পঠাইছে ন, গ্ৰুপ কৰি ব্ৰেকডাউন কৰি, সি আকৌ এইটো ৰিএছেম্বল কৰিছে অৰিজিনেল তোমাৰ ৱেব পেজটো পাবলৈ, যোনটো আমি চাৰ্চ কৰিছোঁ, ছাপ'জ গুগলে চাৰ্চ কৰিছোঁ, সেই অৰিজিনেল পেজটো পাবলৈ কাৰণে সি আকৌ পেকেটছবোৰ ৰিএছেম্বল কৰিছে। তাৰে পিছত সি কি কৰিছে, ইনফৰ্ম কৰিছে যোনটো HTTP ছফ্টৱেৰ ছাৰ্ভাৰ ছাইডত that we received the packet correctly or that we received the web page correctly. সেইটো ইনফৰ্মেশ্যন পোৱাৰ পিছত the HTTP ছফ্টৱেৰ যোনটো আছে on the server side, সি টাৰ্মিনেট কৰিছে তাৰ HTTP কানেকশ্যনটো between the server and the client. তো টাৰ্মিনেট কৰিছে, টাৰ্মিনেট কৰা মানে কি? That's why আমি কওঁ যে HTTP is a stateless protocol, যোনটো আমি যোৱা ক্লাছত পঢ়িছোঁ ফিচাৰ্ছ কেইটা, ৰাইট। তাৰপিছত যোনটো TCP IPতহে বস্তুখিনি আছে আমাৰ মেছেজটো, TCP IPত থাকিলে আমি দেখা নাপাওঁ নহয়। So the TCP IP যোনটো ছফ্টৱেৰ which is on the client side now hands that message or hands that web page to the web browser. ব্ৰাউজাৰত অহাৰ পিছতহে আমি দেখা পাম। তো যেতিয়া once it is there in the browser, we can interpret that, interact with that. Clear? Clear or not?